Hi everyone, welcome to Curriculum Night. I am Melissa Gaffney. I am your student's teacher for language arts and social studies and potentially creative writing, maybe this trimester or in the future. I want to tell you a little bit right now about our language arts work that we're going to do this year. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Feels like you guys are right in here with your students when we're doing this. So just to give you a little bit of background about me, I've been here at Highlander Middle School. This will be my 8th year, and I've been teaching 6th grade language arts and social studies the entire time I've been here. My electives have changed, but the core of what I teach has not. I graduated from the University of Oregon, go Ducks. I received my master's degree from Seattle University, go Hawks. I guess I'm consistent with the bird theme. And in my spare time, I love to travel. I don't have a lot of spare time because I have two very busy children. I have a daughter in 4th grade, a son in 1st, and my weekends are usually full of Girl Scout troop meetings and soccer games when they are occurring. So obviously language arts is kind of a combination of reading, writing, listening, and speaking. But for our focus for reading, we're going to read a variety of texts this year. Right now we are in our narrative unit and we're reading a bunch of short stories to kind of understand plot structure, understand characterization, understand theme, and it's really easy to do with short stories. So we're using those as sort of mentor texts. We will also be reading 3 class novels together. Later on in the fall, we'll be reading The Giver by Lois Lowry. Starting off 2021, we'll be reading the graphic novel March. It's a autobiography really, by John Lewis about the civil rights movement. And then in the spring, we'll be reading a memoir by Zhili Jiang called Red Scarf Girl, and it's about her time growing up in China during the Cultural Revolution. In addition to the reading that we'll be doing in class, I also do expect students to be reading for independent reading, and that's really all choice. The only thing that I ask is that students read 3 books a trimester, which equals out to about a book a month. My suggestion is that they read for about 15 to 20 minutes a day. I always tell students I think a good habit to build before going to bed is to read a chapter of a book you like before bed. It helps you go to sleep. It's really relaxing. It's a good habit for adults to get into. I'm trying to take my own advice here. So really students need to be reading 3 books a trimester and then recording it in our independent reading chart. I will also be doing regular reading conferences with students. I'll be calling them back to my office hours and we'll be talking about what they're reading. And then I'm also going to encourage them to do 1 book talk a month, and that will be done either in a Schoology discussion with software we use called Flipgrid, where students can make short little videos to kind of summarize the books that they're reading. So that's what we're doing in reading for language arts. For writing, we're writing in the 3 main modes. We're going to start off the year in narrative writing, which is storytelling. So really using descriptive language, having the structure of a full story. Later in the year, we're going to move into expository writing, which is informative, sort of that essay or explaining things. And then later in the year, we'll be doing argumentative writing. Each writing unit will have regular check-ins for feedback opportunities, as well as opportunities for larger assessments once the students have had enough time to practice those skills. So with the narrative unit, we'll be writing shorter fictional pieces. With expository, they will be writing a literary analysis, which is a pretty in-depth skill for 6th grade. It's an exciting unit to teach. They'll also be investigating a topic of their choice with a research paper, learning about how to cite their sources. And then in argumentative, we usually do a formal debate and an argumentative letter where they can advocate for a cause that they believe in. Regular grammar work will actually begin very soon with a program we're piloting called No Red Ink. It's a platform that's targeted and teachers can choose exactly what skills students need to work on when it comes to grammar and spelling, and it really adjusts to the level where kids are at. And one of the things that I'm focused on, this is my third year of using standards-based grading. So some of you coming from most elementary schools are probably already familiar with the idea of standards-based grading, that instead of students getting a holistic grade and it's hard to really tell where students are at when it comes to skills, standards-based grading really does isolate various skills and tells students and parents where the kids are at in meeting those. So a 4 is really exemplary. It's sort of above and beyond grade level expectations. A 3 is where I expect most students to be. And even right now, at the beginning of a year, when they're introduced to new skills, I'm really kind of expecting to see some 2s. And that's not to say that students by any means are behind. It's really just to reiterate the fact that these may be new skills, and I should not expect them to be mastering skills they're just now being exposed to. So maybe keep that in mind as we go through the trimester and throughout the year. Seeing 2s might not always be a cause for concern. It just might be that we are getting exposed to new things. And I shouldn't expect, and we all shouldn't expect, students to be mastering something they just learned. So just kind of keeping that in mind. And I think one thing that I always like to think about at curriculum night, it's really nice to hear what students will be up to, but I really want to know how I can best partner with my child's teacher and what I should be doing at home to kind of reinforce what's happening in the classroom. So for language arts, there's so many things that families can do to really encourage a vibrant reading, writing, and language arts experience. So one thing that I think gets left behind as kids go into middle school is reading with your student aloud. I think a lot of people, a lot of families sort of see once students start reading independently that there's no more time for read aloud. I vehemently disagree with that. I think read alouds are super important. Think about how as adults we like to listen to audiobooks. Students get better vocabulary pronunciation, understanding and fluency of reading with complex text. So it's really important that you still read aloud with your students. Going to the library, I know right now it's a little tough, but King County Library is doing curbside pickup. So that's a really great thing to do, to put some books on hold and go grab them. Family book clubs, maybe choose a book to read together and then talk about it. Maybe pop some popcorn and get some sparkling cider and make it kind of festive. Playing word games like Scrabble and Bananagrams really helps with spelling and vocabulary. They can get thesauruses out. What letters can I, what word can I make with these letters? And they can learn the definition of some very strange words. Talking to them about what they're reading. I think that's really important. I think it's really easy to say, what did you do in school today? But I know that you're reading The Giver right now. What do you think of it? So just talking to them about what they're reading and about what they're reading for independent reading. And then listening to audiobooks in the car. This is one of my favorite things that I do with my kids. Anytime that we maybe have a longer road trip ahead of us, we usually pick a book out. Right now it's the 5th book of the Harry Potter series. And we just listen to audiobooks in the car. We can usually get a chapter or so in, even just going to the grocery store. So those are kind of my tips on how to kind of bring the classroom into home and really kind of enrich your students' experience with language arts. So I will see most of you for social studies later, and maybe even some of you for creative writing. But thank you so much for partnering with me this year. And I'm really looking forward to getting to know your student a little bit better and going on this journey of learning in a unique and different situation, but exciting nonetheless. So thanks again. And please feel free to reach out. Best way is usually by email, melissa.gaffney@mercerislandschools.org. And I will see many of you later. Take care.